Not a system clone, I alone create my life. Chapter 1. You alone create your life. You alone create your life. 1. The conventional self-help code, as exemplified in every current work of psychobabble out there, comes down to the following one-dimensional, superficial points. Set some goals. Make up a life vision. Write them out so you know clearly exactly what you want. Work hard on your life plan little by little, day by day. Make the decision to be successful out in the world. Pledge to be true to your highest potential no matter what. Believe in yourself. Have the courage to act on your life. Have a positive attitude. Hope springs eternal. Don't be wishy-washy. Commit to your choices. Worship God. No matter how many negative, rough things happen to you, have your little pity party, dust yourself off, forget the past and continue on with the plan. Face your fears, use them as your impetus for growth. When you feel weak, stay strong by knowing you can do it and praying to God. Take a break now and then, play with your family but keep your eye on the prize of success. Don't let anything distract you. Do whatever is necessary to get what you want. Never settle and get soft. If you accomplish one goal, set another then another. The New Agers add meditation, yoga, the 7 chakras of the body, biofeedback, serenity, peace of mind, your sacred self, love of humanity, service to humanity and all manner of supernatural psychobabble into the equation. This is all disjointed knowledge. It has no unifying factor to it, that is the human condition. All these points may be fine by themselves but miss the whole point that enlightened people live by the intuition that comes from their souls. They don't follow some mechanical list of discrete one-liners that some conventional psychobabblist wrote up in some book because he thought he was so wise that he should impart his wisdom onto the unwashed ruffians out there. Write all these one-liner statements out along with all the habits of highly effective people, life strategies and defining moments you can find, put them in your pocket or on a big poster on your bedroom wall and use them whenever you feel you need inspiration or wisdom in order to manage your life, as these conventional psychobabblists like to say. The point is that you will very quickly see they're just empty words. They don't come close to addressing the engine of your life, which is your soul. If Columbus would have managed his life like the major conventional psychobabblists would like to have the citizenry do, he would have ended up some gutless nerd bureaucrat in Italy somewhere, would never have met Queen Isabella of Spain nor had the guts to sail the open seas as a pioneer and explorer of life. Are you a bureaucratic manager or a visionary bohemian hooked on what you feel in your soul? Do you think anyone out there has more wisdom than the potential you were born with? It all goes back to what Søren Kierkegaard said, life is not a problem to be solved but a reality to be experienced. The problem is that all these psychobabblists have to make you think there's something wrong with you so then they can make money pretending to fix you with their therapies, books, tapes, seminars, workshops, etc. They all base their theories on the assumption that there's something wrong with you that has to be fixed. I wake up every day with a new slate. There's absolutely nothing in my mind but how to get a good dose of inspired hedonistic loving living for that day. I consciously strive to live a happy life. I never dwell on my past because it's long gone. It has no effect on the momentary experience of my life now. Have you ever gone to a life strategy type seminar with the thought that they would give you something you don't already have? If you have, then you know what you are. There's one born every minute. Do you think this one-liner stuff will help you when you're in a tough situation that needs immediate action? Or how about when you feel down, fed up, and tired out? How do you stay eternally inspired about your life? Do you think this list of self-help one-liners is gonna do anything substantial for you that you don't already intuitively know in your soul? Follow these one-liners and they might help you get the limited success the system has been grooming you for all your life, but it will be a dull, boring, plodding way to go. None of them tell you about the spiritual, inspired, sensual, free-spirited, hedonistic, mystical, psychedelic, intimate, loving, glorious pursuit of life, which is the way life was meant to be lived, To do it the way you want, free and clear, with some intensity, euphoria, and gusto, and earn a living from an intelligent use of this freedom, which is much better than the one-dimensional version of success society tries to thrust onto you, that is, if you believe that your natural inspired potential will net you a good enough living in the real world, then have the guts to follow it. The means to earn a living by following your soul could be anything from something as basic as fixing small engines to something as masterful as trying to create great works of art. The game is to figure out something you want to do on your own terms and earn a living from it without being hassled by the world system much, if at all. Most people I know who live like this have worked a regular job for 10 or 15 years and saved enough money to get out, and have developed a lifestyle of few material needs, weaning themselves off the delusion that consumer goods lead to happiness and fulfillment. In my investigation of the self-help business, I saw them copying one another, using the well-worn clichés of live an authentic life and pursue your passion, but for 90+% of them, these are just empty statements they copied off someone else. They can't tell you how to apply these things to live life day by day in a way that makes you feel good, because they're all operating as clones from within the system, fancying themselves as the establishment's righteous gurus of the correct psychobabble of the day, which is the capitalist, corporate, patriotic, religious, formal education meld of good, little conformist clones who will grow up to be productive citizens, as they call it, while some bohemian like me stands on the fringes and says to himself, wait a minute, that's not the real me, that's not who I want to be. I want to live a free life being who I really am. You alone create your life too. Therapy, empathy, and love must replace the drugs, electroshock, and biochemical theories. Part of a book title. All the conventional psychobabble and self-help theories in the world fail for the same two reasons. They go in with the implicit assumption that happiness and success is defined by the standards of the world system rather than by finding your own standards as a human being and living by them. They all give you one-liner steps, stages, secrets, tips, habits, therapies, or strategies, which all fail because they don't address the unitary engine or essence that is you, so they are all artificial, discrete, minor, temporary attempts at inspiration, success, happiness, and wisdom, which don't usually last for longer than 1 or 2 days because they don't tap into your true, inherent, original nature. You can't sustain anything that's not natural to you except through enormous, tedious amounts of willpower and effort, which drain you over time and leave you feeling dull and generic, such that you either abandon these pursuits or become a repressed, stressed out clone not in harmony with your true nature. This is not who you really are or how you were meant to live, following some set of rules like a robot. The thing that gets me is how much fun can this be to set some goals and follow them day by day, and how long can you actually live like this before you feel like all work and no play makes Jack a dull, stupid, one-dimensional, brainwashed clone? What about doing something for the experience as an end in itself to give you a good feeling and a sense of self-respect right now? What about living for the glory of life as a living monument to the spirit you were endowed with? What about dancing around just 'cause you feel like it, like Zorba the Greek? What about catching a buzz tonight because you're feeling good and want to ride the wave of euphoria? Free spiritism is easy. Earn your self-respect and sense of well-being by releasing your natural, inspired, aesthetic and loving energy to reach your own personal standard of what is worthy in life day by day. How do you manage to pursue some goals day after day without dying of boredom and a sense of emptiness because your inner bohemian hedonist artist is locked up inside of you, unable to get out to be free? Not one person who writes self-help, life mastery books about X number of life strategies, life makeover tips or habits of highly effective people understands the true meaning of life, because if they did, they would know that it has nothing to do with setting up X number of discrete rules or steps that you're supposed to follow to become successful and happy according to what the world system defines as success and happiness. Life doesn't work that way, even for one-dimensional, dull, generic people who like to be regimented as part of a system. There is something that's much more powerful than all these discrete, one-liner formulas that all the normal thinking, autonomous people in past history were using before this massive explosion of so-called life experts, social scientists, psychologists, life coaches and self-help gurus came onto the scene. It's called innate wisdom or natural intuition, Trusting yourself, what you feel within, analyzing situations, then coming to rational, intuitive, emotional decisions based on that. We are still the same essence regardless of whether we drive a Jag, are president of company X and live in a 10,000 square foot house, or drive an old car, live in a small apartment and work a low-level job somewhere. You need to earn a living to the extent that you need your basic needs covered, but beyond that, it's just you and always you stuck in that essence that is your mind and consciousness. Hence your potential for happiness is all within you, and the only way anyone really gets it is to culture a lifestyle that shoots for transcendence and inspiration, to make the most of your unique right of the human condition by purging all your natural energy to the extent that it makes you feel good too. Transcendent and gives you your sense of self-respect day after day. Transcendence to me is a great feeling in my consciousness that I get when I release high amounts of natural, inspired, sensual, aesthetic and loving energy to a level that makes me feel like I'm honoring the mug in the mirror, being the person I want to be. The glitter of the pop culture, commercialized, psychobabble world is meaningless next to the pure essence that is me, my efforts to expend my vital energy in all its ways, the inspired, the loving, the sensual, the passionate, the hedonistic, the mystical and the psychedelic. I applaud the conventional psychobabble and self-help fields as being mildly inspirational for lost souls by offering positive one-liner steps to succeed, such as Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Dr. Phil's Life Strategies and Tony Robbins' 7 Days to Awaken the Giant Within or Get the Edge, whatever his current shtick is. But even though the brainwashed masses eat it up because it's cleverly marketed as the cutting-edge wisdom of the day and reinforced by the hype in the mainstream media, they all fail because they all provide essentially the same one-liner crap without a foundation. The critical 2 questions for success in the capitalist and personal world are: what is it that you really like to do that can serve a useful function in society and either help, amuse, or inspire people to earn you a living? How do you stay inspired and feeling good about your life day after day infinitely? Not one conventional psychobabblist out there has ever given anyone the answer to stay inspired about their lives for more than a day, because they all give one-liners or generic verbal diarrhea advice that doesn't really mean anything in the way you live your life day by day, so it all fades away very quickly. You can get fired up at a hyped-up self-help seminar today and go out tomorrow all fired up, but then you'll fade because it's like Jell-O, no strong foundation. How will you feel after the 3rd day when you wake up in the morning? I invite you to check out the section The One-Liner Master List of Life, which is a bunch of these one-liner steps and strategies I got out of a bunch of self-help books. Read them, see how long they keep you fired up for, then on the 3rd day see if you can remember any of them. None of them address the engine that is your life, your soul, your own standard within, and the realization that you must release the inspired, loving and sensual energy that lives in it in order to feel good day after day forever. You only have one vision of beauty, greatness, and happiness. You're either pursuing it as a holistic being or you're not. I'm not New Age because I have no delusions about guardian angels, ascended masters, spirit guides, astrology, etc., nor do I buy into that off in the clouds, fake, naive lie that says we are all brothers and sisters of humanity from the same genetic seed and spiritual life force, therefore we are all one and should love each other as extensions of our divine creator. I explain elsewhere that this is not possible except for a few saints, since we are all self-centered and territorial for our own space by nature. You alone create your life. 3. I'm telling you to discover your own standard, trust it, then live by it. I'm battling the entire world of an entrenched system mentality made up of huge social science academic fields that I'm calling a bunch of convoluted, one-liner crap created by inferior minds, yet this is what's touted as the conventional establishment knowledge of the day. I'm right, they're wrong. That's the bottom line. I can't be made to second-guess myself anymore because I think somebody knows something more about my life than me, like I did when I was younger, nor can I be intimidated by the illusion of academia like I was when I was younger, something like if they're teaching all this crap in school acting like elitist eggheads, it must be right. There must be something to it. I have nothing personally against conventional psychologists. Most are well-intentioned people even if they're brainwashed clones not wise enough to explore their own lives to find their own inherent truths. Enlightened people know that conventional psychology is a big con job, firstly because it doesn't address the holistic engine that is an individual's life the way they live day by day, and secondly because it's based on the negative, on an individual's supposed weaknesses as opposed to minimizing negativity to strive for what makes you powerful, inspired and feeling good. Life is reduced to this one simple process: know your own standard, live by it, honor it by releasing your natural inspired, aesthetic and loving energy. The free exploration of life as a bohemian artist is the only way for anyone to discover what's really inside of themselves away from everything they were brainwashed to believe in. A seeker for the answers to life seeks to discover themselves and to learn about the world enough to unravel some of its mysteries, or at least to learn enough to know what they want to be a part of out there, if anything. I've tried to reach for the upper limits of my version of the human experience because I had to honor who I was by seeing what I was all about, including doing drugs and lots of crazy things that could have killed me, but I did it. I'm still alive and I now have my true identity, something a lot of people never discover. This is the only righteous path to wisdom and enlightenment in life, what Joseph Campbell called the proverbial hero's journey. You go out into the world, get cut to pieces by all the adversity out there, but you learn from it, slowly rebuild, then rise from the ashes to be an enlightened person because you've been through the trial of life both out in the world and in discovering yourself. You passed. You now know who you really are. This is eons away from all those timid people I went to school with who studied their little books, passed all their tests, then at some point in time the system gave them its credentials of a modern-day wise person, which is essentially a doctorate in psychology, sociology, education, or any one of a few other social science subjects. This is not the road to enlightenment. Any lost soul can pass all their tests, then get a few degrees certifying them as wise people, but they're really just lost souls with some low-level book knowledge that's quickly fading from their memories, so they learn to be bullshit's artists and hide beyond fancy, useless words and theories often called psychobabble. Unless you go off alone and try a bunch of things to discover who you are, you ain't gonna truly understand your life or the human condition in general. I now know that we're all human with human foibles. Most of us wake up in the morning feeling tired and mundane. Most of us are less than the people we want to be, most of feel that life has passed us by in some way, very few people do what they want or go for a conscious release of their natural energy every day, so nowadays, I go along, playing along with people, being nice and sociable with no emotional investment in most people I come across and meet. It's not like the old days when I wanted to learn about life. On the other side of it, your core set of interests or soul converges to a couple of things and everything else is reduced to either scenery, background, minor amusement, or means nothing. If you don't live this rich, free type of life that I lived and go from grade school straight to college to work, marriage and kids, there is no free time to freely explore your life, so despite all your indoctrination to be successful out in the world, there's gonna be that big hole there of what you should have done if you had been free and strong enough to do it. This is why I feel superior to all those capitalist clones and system-credentialed wise people out there. Because I'm truly free. They work, work, work and never stop to ask why. So many of my acquaintances from college were in such a hurry to get a career going. I saw a few of them several years later. Most had lost their youthful sparks by then. I wonder where they are now. Are they ahead of me in the game of life? What exactly does that mean, getting ahead in life? I went out and experienced a lot of things freely after I threw off the brainwash of the world, and in the end, I still get up in the morning and go off for a morning run right away just like I did when I was 22, but I had to figure it out that this is me, not some transient phase I was going through in college. It's kind of funny that after all that living, I'm still the same person/essence as I was at 22. Most people would think and say that they have grown somehow, meaning they are so much more sophisticated and advanced now. You alone create your life for. There's no such thing as clinical/chemical depression as a disease that an individual can't control and needs drugs for. That's all bull created by the mental health and drug industries to make money. Depression is simple. It's uninspiration. There's an article about it somewhere in one of my books. You determine how inspired or mundane you are at any moment in time by the way you live. You can get out of any pit anytime you want. Just get up off your ass and start riding your life or dancing with it. I never get depressed because my life revolves around earning my self-respect and sense of well-being by releasing my natural, inspired energy to reach my standard of who I want to be every single day of life. I never lose a hold of who I want to be. The TV people counter my argument saying it's healthy and positive to talk about our problems and bring them out into the open, but I don't agree. I believe in out of sight, out of mind. You are what you think about, talk about, and do. I don't understand this Western, capitalist psychobabble concept of bringing up negative events and rehashing them to supposedly heal oneself. I think it has more to do with therapists making money. The truth is that the quicker and further you run from negative events and minimize them in your lives, headspace, and memories, the better for you. Everybody has X number of sob stories and sad events in their lives. What should I do? Constantly bring them up and think about them to bring me down like the psychotherapists tell me to do, or simply get over it, move on to happy, positive, inspiring things I want to do? I focus on living a great life for myself. Whenever I see self-pitying wimps on TV talking about their alleged problems and heartbreak, I turn the channel or turn my music box on. The bottom line is that every person on the planet has a sob story. Everybody feels that somebody unjustly used, abused, or exploited them and life is not fair, but so what? Enlightenment is to know that that's life, that you will get crapped on, disrespected, abused and rejected lots of times. It's par for the course of human life in America and Canada. I'm loose because none of it bothers me anymore. It's like they say in business, after some guy has just finished backstabbing you by going to your competitor, it's just business. I focus on what I must do to live greatly for me and my few intimates. If someone screws me, I let it occupy as little space in my thoughts as possible. I don't dwell on it. I'm too busy constantly moving with the inspired aesthetic activities I do every day. I never stop to let negative thoughts spiral in to make me feel like a victim. Loss of self is inactivity plus negative thinking. All these problem talk shows have a double dose of negativity to them. The first is the stupid, soppy victims on them, and the second is that you're sitting on your ass watching them when you should be up doing some kind of activity that is original and inspired, that helps you define who you are. Why do I get this image in my mind that all the dumpy, middle-aged housewives of America are sitting home every afternoon feeling inadequate and sorry for themselves watching all these negative talk shows? They think it gives them some kind of solace when they see weak, pathetic people like themselves, but what it does is make them a bunch of generic nerds without the guts to get up off their asses and actually do something positive and original with their lives. Get a life. The problem in America is that we got it so good that we've reduced ourselves into being a bunch of pathetic, wimpy winners with nothing better to do than focus on how miserable we are, then watch the misery on TV every night. I come from agrarian, East European, Polish peasants. One thing I can say for us is that we're basic, down-to-earth people who can spot bullshit a mile away and laugh at it. We do our work, eat good, basic food, laugh, enjoy our lives and take nothing too seriously. Thank God I kept a hold of my roots. Somewhere along the way America has lost its soul, this basic, wholesome way to live. Daniel Boone, Benjamin Franklin, and Henry Ford were all basic hard-working people who loved what they did with no bull attached to it. They got up every morning and worked hard at what they believed in that inspired them about their lives. This is all gone now, at least in the cities. About 50 or so years ago, a bunch of people working in the so-called mental health industry started creating all these maladies and mental health disorders in order to reassure themselves that they were doing something useful with their lives and make money by telling the American people they were all screwed up with these fictitious disorders they created and they could fix them for a fee. So the weak losers went to them looking to get an excuse as to why they were uninspired wimps. They were patted on the back and told, it's not your fault, it's something in your brain. You were born that way. We'll give you pills, therapy sessions, and be your hired friends to make you feel better, all for a hefty fee, of course. The problem is that it's all bull. It was all created out of thin air. There's no great, divine book anywhere that says the DSM is the gospel of human behavior. It's all a bunch of self-serving brainwash. Then the drug companies got in on the action and created drugs that gave people enough of a tingle for millions to become addicts, while nobody on the planet can open up the human brain and point to exactly what these mental health drugs supposedly do to help all these mental health disorders. The natural, wholesome soul of America has been sucked out of us by this big complexification of life by the phony psychobabble industry. It's bad for a great, natural, glorious pursuit of life. There's too much bull in America these days. This bullshit is so pervasive that it's institutional now. These psychobabble talk shows are hailed as a cool part of mainstream society. They show us a bunch of soppy, lazy victims who need a good kick in the ass and contempt as weak people not strong enough to suck it up and quietly try to live great lives for themselves regardless of what they may have gone through. If somebody is anorexic, let them starve. If they're that stupid to purposely starve themselves because of some stupid body image bullshit while people are starving for real in Africa, they don't deserve this gift of life. Our society is made up of a bunch of neurotic, pop culture, materialistic clones with empty lives trying to fill them up with stuff from out there rather than trying to become the heroes of their own lives. This is what Rome degenerated to just before the Great Fall, a bunch of candy-ass wimps constantly looking for entertainment, letting their servants do all the work. Everybody should do the basic things to take care of themselves, like cook your own food, wash your own clothes, chop your own firewood, clean your own house, etc. We need a connection to what we need to do to survive in order to stay natural and thankful for our lives. We are using 21st century methods to deal with 21st century lives, then we wonder why we're all messed up and people are killing each other everywhere. The thing is that we are no different than our primordial ancestors who lived in caves. They were human, they had the same essences we do, just like the Indians and Maoris had the same essences we did when we found them. They woke up in the mornings and knew they had to either hunt, forage, or farm in order to get food to survive. This sustained them in two ways. 1. They released their inspired and physical energy. 2. They had a purpose in life. Nowadays, we don't even have to go outside. We can get in our car in the garage, drive to work, do a sedentary job in a building all day long, drive through a fast food drive-through, go home and watch TV. This is what I mean about not living by our true natures. We were made to move, live basic lives out there commuting with nature to provide for ourselves. It's great that we have a technologically advanced society, but the cost has been great, a divorce from our true, simple natures. Every day you should release physical energy and some kind of inspired energy in the pursuit of your purpose in life, which could be as simple as putting food on the table. After that, keep it simple and basic. Don't get caught up in the psychobabble and bullshit of the world. Focus on culturing your own standard of love, beauty, and strength in your own life. Do that and you can't go wrong. Do not get a cell phone or a BlackBerry. They'll kill you of either radiation or a detachment from your true nature. Be like a dog. Get out there and run around to get your dose of living for the day, then sit back, eat some food and be thankful for this great life you're living. You alone create your life. 5. Listen to the song of life. Don't get suckered into managing it just because psychobabble tells you that's the right way to live. An inspired sense of self is something you either have within because you're consciously doing what you were created for with your life, or you're somewhat mundane, confused and pacified because you don't know who you really are, you're going along with the system's plan for your life or you're not doing what you really want to with your life. Anything worthwhile in your life comes from within you. You won't get it through some lurch-like character acting all bubbly with a fake perma-smile spinning around quick-like, pointing at 5 or 6 people in quick succession in his audience as though pretending to acknowledge to them that they're all united as winners going for the gusto along with him, when what he's really doing is laughing to himself, thinking, "Sucker for buying my stupid self-help tapes, ha, Ha, ha. He's their personal success coach, as he likes to call himself, jumping up real high, giving a high five to several audience members as part of his rah-rah pep rally shtick, then hollering at them for an hour about how to stop settling, go for the gold, get momentum, and be a winner. It will all fade within a day or so of hearing it, because it doesn't come from inside of you in the foundation that is your soul. I'm not a piece of clay molded by the outside world every which way it takes me. I'm a piece of steel that is what it is, was what it was at birth, and that's it. I was created out of a sperm and an egg that had a certain predisposition of an essence, and that's who I am today, nothing else. My life was all about my soul and essence ever since I had consciousness. There's nothing out there that ever influenced me but what I felt inside as my inherent essence, even though I was mildly brainwashed as a young man, until I figured out that all the people and ideologies of the world are a bunch of soppy, phony crap that doesn't come close to the primal divine aesthetic essence I feel within my soul. Where is the simple engine that propels human life? It's as simple as your true essence as a human being. I give it my all in my intense soulful pursuits that keep me inspired and occasionally get me to wisps of transcendence, but it ain't exactly like setting some dinky little capitalist goals, then mundanely working on them day by day to reach some illusion of success set up for me by the system. Most people who follow the system's way of life feel empty inside, but they wouldn't dare breathe a word of it to anyone because it would betray true humanity on their part and a questioning of everything they've been brought up to believe in, so they blindly go on, deluding themselves into thinking they got something by partaking in the system's trinkets of success, namely having a bigger house than they need, buying CDs and ice cream, then going to the mall on the weekends to pacify themselves with some new, useless stuff, but none of it can hold a candle to living a primal divine mix of life that comes from your soul. A lot of people who work hard within the system get nothing but stress and illness from it, and a lot of people, despite reaching success in the capitalist world, never feel happy because they don't realize they're following an artificial agenda outside of themselves that's not inherent to what they really feel inside if they could get past the brainwash to see themselves as they really are. The only power any person has over anyone else in a free society is the power that person, the victim, gives them. This is what witch doctors have been using throughout history to cure their people or kill them. As long as you believe the witch doctor has power, your mind and soul will accept whatever he says as truth. It's just the power of suggestion and all bull beyond this. Modern-day psychobabblists and the standard American dream ideology operate by the same illusion. Don't you think it's kind of arrogant to presume these phony fields called psychology, psychiatry, mental health, therapy, etc. never existed 100 years ago or so, but now claim to have all the answers? Was humanity lost until then, yet managed to survive somehow despite not having the benefit of all this psychobabble? I wonder what Napoleon, Da Vinci, Columbus, Copernicus, Alexander the Great or Socrates would have thought of modern-day psychobabble. The same thing I think of it, what a con job, and all these suckers fall for it, believing in these fake shamans presuming to know something more about life than other human beings because they studied some dry, archaic theories in some alleged school somewhere. Anybody who knows anything knows that our gods gave all normal people the intuitive faculties to reach the highest level of enlightenment any human is capable of. It's all inside each of us without having to bow down to some phony psychobabble crap that puts forth the illusion that it contains the wisdom of life, with all these phony so-called doctors and therapists pretending to be more enlightened about life than mere mortals who don't have their establishment credentials. Somebody should put those mainstream modern-day gurus in a room all together and do a debate for the Comedy Network moderated by the current host of The Daily Show, telling them they all have different theories about how to live a great, exciting, fascinating, effective full life, but they all can't be right, so let them hash it out amongst themselves as to who has the purest heart offering the clearest truth without BS. It should only be an hour long, because after a few minutes, it will just be the same old one-dimensional, egotistical crap repeating itself over and over again. While it's going on, some wise capitalist should can that air and sell it as BS, bullshit spray, to be sprayed at someone when they try to get too deep and preachy with you, using 50-cent words and convoluted verbiage that all adds up to one-dimensional ego's peak, which is what it is, hot air. You alone create your life. 6. Every man is the creature of the age in which he lives, very few are able to raise themselves above the ideas of the times. Voltaire. All the self-help diatribe in the world will not sustain a strong sense of inspiration within anybody for longer than a few days at the most if you don't have a spiritual aesthetic foundation of knowing who you are in your soul and living by it to release your natural, intuitive sense of inspiration all the time. The conventional self-help industry is a commercial venture geared to suck you out of your money while pretending to help you. If you want conventional self-help books, go to number 128, Philosophy, number 133, New Age, hashtag 155-158, Motherload of Psychobabble Self-Help, number 242 and number 248, Christian Self-Help, number 291, Offbeat Spiritual, and number 814, Literary Life Contemplation, at the library, where you will see 100 or so books on the subject, but none of it will come close to giving you the truth about the human condition like I do, because I'm the only human being, as far as I can see, who has unlocked the keys to life simply and clearly, without being polluted by cultural brainwash. Go to the library, get all the books in these sections, read them at your own leisure, then go to the audiovisual section, borrow all the self-help tapes and videos they have and listen to them. Take all the notes you want for later to refresh your mind when you're feeling weak. Once you're all done, monitor yourself and see how long all this rah-rah, go-get one-liner, conventional self-help stuff keeps you feeling inspired, vital and naturally energetic about your life. I'm willing to bet the strongest among you might be able to use this stuff to help you stay fired up about your lives for about 3 days. Then you will have to dig into yourself and use what's naturally intuitively in there, because plain and simple, the lists of success that these supposed intellectual leaders of our time put out, like the 7 habits of highly effective people, life blueprints, life makeovers, life strategies, or 7 days to get the edge, are artificial and plotting. Read the book of your own life. Rumi. Gotta feel right about what I do. You either discover your true identity then live by it, or you don't, in which case you will be somewhat of a lost soul living in disharmony with yourself until and unless you go back to the simple essence you were as a child, the state of consciousness that is you, that you always were and always will be if you're being true to yourself. Everything about the individual human condition that has any worth in all of human history, poetry, and literature is all about one thing only: one individual search for his or her own brand of truth in life, not about accepting the system's brand of truth that most of us are indoctrinated by regardless of whether we admit to it or not, but it's about the few in the massive sea of humanity who actually give enough of a damn about their right of the human condition and have the guts enough to try to get beyond everything they were conditioned by to come to their own truth, which they perceive as a higher truth because it's original, totally from within themselves. This is what often blazes the path for the frontiers of humanity, this search for one person's inner truth away from everything they have been indoctrinated to believe in. This is self-contemplation, experiencing life out in the world, then thinking about it, analyzing it to learn from it to develop your own code, which can be tough to do. You alone create your life. 7. Anyone who's enlightened knows everything out there was created by human beings, so that, as a power of one, nothing out there can be qualitatively superior to what an enlightened individual thinks. Therefore you should bow down to nothing beyond you, since the best the world can offer you in terms of life wisdom can only equal you at best, not better you, presuming you take the journey to go as far as you can possibly go with your right of the human condition. Much of the world's wisdom about life is inferior to an individual thinking their lives through on their own, because a lot of it is created by limited, brainwashed people with an agenda to promote their artificial ideologies, achieve career success, make money, or get power over people by pretending to know something advanced and divine that other people don't know, as with religion, the New Age ideologies, and the social science, liberal arts philosophies, which I'll call psychobabble for the purposes of this book. To me, it's all fake knowledge created by people with their own agendas, none of which can match me with my own primal inherent wisdom that I know is right because I intuitively feel it from the force within that created me. That's the most divine force in the universe, feeling my creator/God within me, doing what he tells me to do through my instincts, intuition, and inherent wisdom. I don't need some formally educated phony with several letters after his or her name pretending they know something more about the human condition than I do because they were brainwashed in some school to categorize human behavior into an official book called the Diagnostic Statistical Manual/DSM, which is considered the Bible of those mostly fictional fields called psychology and psychiatry. None of this stuff existed 100 years ago, and now all of a sudden we got all these people acting like they have some advanced knowledge as though it was written in stone by some divine force like the Ten Commandments were, but it's all stuff created out of thin air by fallible people, many of whom don't think on their own, just regurgitate the conventional wisdom they were fed by other limited people like themselves, either to give off the illusion that they're wise and or to make money and achieve career success. Even Freud, the father of psychology, said that he got his ideas of the subconscious mind from ancient Greek literature and the hypnotists of his day. The most original thing in the universe is you with your solitary thoughts. We're all born pure with inherent wisdom, then we learn about life by experiencing it out in the world and analyzing it. Everybody is a loner stuck in their own heads. Nobody else knows what anybody else is really thinking. I know that I've gone as far as any human can possibly go in analyzing their lives as a case study of one, because I purposely went out looking for life, leaving no stone unturned in my quest to see what was out there, including the realms of love and sex. As a natural intellectual bohemian seeker of life, I went out there in the world looking for rich and varied experiences until I finally figured it out and wrote about it in my book A Free Spirit's Search for Enlightenment. It made me wise enough to know that my version of the human experience is as profound and deep as the greatest wisdom the human race has come up with so far. I wrote this book with this in mind, that I'm a pure human being analyzing my life as a case study of one, trying to be as honest as I can in exploring my life and writing my thoughts down without being polluted by all the psychobabble that has come on the scene in the past 50 years or so, claiming to be more correct than the insights I come to my own through living my life. Most people have been brainwashed to think that if it's in a textbook or a journal article written by some guy or gal in a white lab coat, that it somehow supersedes their own innate wisdom they were born with and their own analysis of life, but it really doesn't. That's what I'm saying in this book. My wisdom derived from studying my own life and learning about the world is superior to any quantitative research study anyone could possibly do, and on top of that, I'm freer than any psychobablist. Therefore I don't buy into a pre-existing base of knowledge called the field of psychology, which I personally know to be mostly bull because I gave it a good shot in studying it only to realize it was an art form of useless knowledge except for the organic study of the brain. It operates just like the fairy tale The Emperor Has No Clothes. The people within this field are all pretending it contains useful knowledge in order to protect their jobs, but anyone with a critical thinking brain looking in will quickly figure out it's a bunch of fake, useless, manufactured knowledge. I've been to college to see these social science professors sanctioned as the establishment wise people. Most of them are a bunch of clones buying into these academic fields that were created mostly out of thin air in the past 100 years by arrogant men, Freud, James, Skinner, Pavlov, Maslow, who lived in another era that is nowhere near the life I'm living now in these technologically advanced times, so to me it's ivory tower bull. When I was studying psychology, it was a big letdown for me for two main reasons. 1. The foundation of it is based on the three flimsy, general concepts of psychoanalysis, behaviorism, and humanism, which to me mean nothing because I don't believe my past determines who I am. As with psychoanalysis, I think that classical conditioning and reward-based conditioning are low-level motivators of human behavior that don't come close to the higher reaches of the human condition, and humanism is just a general flowery, idealistic lie about how positive and good people are, which they're really not. Most of us are more carnal and self-centered than good and noble. If you don't believe me, why are there so many overweight, pasty-faced consumer spectators running around driving big gas guzzlers they don't really need? 2. The so-called field of psychology has taken the soul of man out of its equation by trying to turn it into a science where only quantitative research methodologies are allowed. You can tell by looking at someone if they really got something going on, if they look youthful and have a vital stride in their step. A wise person strives to stay inspired and feel vital. People that look pale, average, and weak can't be wise because by definition somebody who's truly wise is vital and looks it as a result of the way they live. How can I possibly be inspired by somebody looking like a Sigmund Freud clone with a long, scraggly beard who looks like they haven't been out of the house in years? Very few of those introverts hiding behind their psychology credentials or extroverted loudmouths acting like know-it-alls ever impressed me as people who were taking their lives for a good to great ride of inspiration, originality, beauty, love, sensuality, self-exploration, and hedonism day by day. They're trying to turn the inherent wisdom that we're all born with into a science of human behavior by doing all kinds of trivial little studies to categorize the human soul into a bunch of little compartments with hundreds of minor theories that supposedly prove tendencies in one aspect of human behavior or another, but none of it works because we're holistic beings ruled by our essences and our emotions. Scientific studies is a totally wrong approach to the study of the human condition. We'd be better off studying literature or case studies in order to get at the heart of the human condition. That's why I have contempt for them. It's like a big fake job of fake knowledge, and most people are limited enough to buy into it just because the establishment says that these are the sanctioned wise people of our society. Nobody is superior to anyone else in their ability to think the deepest thoughts of the human condition, but these asses come on the scene acting like they know something about life you and I don't know because they went to some system-accredited bullshit school where they learned to shovel it, run by a bunch of bullshitters thinking they're smarter than everyone else. I don't take anybody else's bullshit, especially the phonies wearing white lab coats calling themselves psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist, counselor, motivational speaker, self-help guru or life coach. I don't need anybody to tell me what's right, what's wrong, or how I should live. 100 years ago, we were all pure. We never had all this stuff to tell us what was right and what was wrong. We lived by our own instincts within ourselves, but then these asses come on the scene pretending they know something about the human condition because they do stupid studies and took X number of courses taught by a generic clone of the system. I don't believe in any so-called system experts because if they went to school to get some degree, it means they're brainwashed and following some limited agenda rather than following themselves freely and purely, and that's the problem with modern society in matters that are not objective law, such as with science and mathematics. Everything else is up for grabs. No institution or ideology is superior to any individual thinking for him or herself. 100 years ago none of this psychology crap existed, and now all of a sudden they have created tons of mental illnesses in their big book called the Diagnostic Statistical Manual /DSM. Normal behaviors are classified as mental disorders. Everybody feels nervous sometimes, anxiety disorder, most of us feel blue sometimes, depression, and most people love themselves, narcissistic personality disorder. It's a big fiction masquerading as official knowledge, but hardly anyone has got the wisdom to call a spade a spade. We just accept it as righteous wisdom. Some people would call this progress. I call it a capitalist venture geared to make money, no different than a factory producing widgets, except in this case the product is fake knowledge for fake manufactured mental diseases. We can't be categorized into different mental illnesses because we're holistic beings. We create our lives as we live them. They're all over the place. They're not in a little box. It's like the nocebo effect or iatrogenesis. Create some fake mental or medical disease and all the weak, pathetic losers will come out of the woodwork and claim it as their own because this legitimates their real problem, which is laziness and weakness, and calls it a disease with organic causes, which is a good way to take the blame off themselves as losers and blame it on something beyond their control. Granted, a very small percentage of people have organic brain disorders and can't help their negative feelings, but most people don't. Their alleged mental illness is human weakness, but they don't want to admit this to themselves, so they'll go along with the mental health industry, get diagnosed, then be put on some pills and therapy. But mental health pills are a big question mark because it's not like anyone can actually measure and see what's going on in the brain as a result of taking these pills. I come from the noble theory of life. Nobody's got anything on you about your life. You live it by yourself through your primal noble instincts, and you don't buy into any bull out there. Chapter 2. Born with a fixed essence. Born with a fixed essence. Vitality and beauty are gifts of nature for those who live according to its laws. Leonardo da Vinci. Try to imagine who you are away from everything you've ever been brought up to believe in and have been exposed to all your life. Of course you had to learn to think by living within your particular political, cultural, religious system and follow it to some extent, but there comes a point when you have the ability to think on your own away from the society you have been socialized in. Every one of us is born with a certain unique disposition, either given to you by your God or just there from the combination of genes that mix together to form you. This essence is fixed. It never changes. From the time you have first conscious awareness about the world at around 5 years old, this one consciousness that is you will always be there inside of you. This is who you really are. There is a formative, maturation period where you're learning how to think to the point of logic and autonomy. This has two major aspects to it. 1. What you learn by instinct from within yourself, and what you learn by analyzing your experiences out in the world to come to your own conclusions about how life works. 2. What you learn from the world talking at you, which is the establishment heads telling you what's right and wrong, including your president, the scoutmaster, the teacher, the priest, your parents, the news anchor, the cool chick in the TV commercial, the pop star, your friends, etc. The normal stream of consciousness you live in can be divided into these two categories. 1. The pure you. 2. The socialized, indoctrinated you. There is the pure you, which is your aesthetic spiritual essence, the engine of your life, which is your consciousness as an individual, who you are in your soul. Then there's everything else that you let in either intentionally or by osmosis from the world. You are just like your pet. You can train him to do a bunch of stuff, but at heart, he is who he is. All the training is an artificial code superimposed over his true nature, which is still there inside of him and could come out if he's pushed too much to be something he's not. But oftentimes the weak pets trade their true natures for a comfortable life of domestic bliss, thus sacrificing the most important thing they could possibly own, who they really are in their true natures. If you, as his caretaker, restrict your pet to the point where you're denying him his true nature, he might fight back to assert his true identity, or he might degenerate into a domestic wuss who is a poor specimen for his species. Why do pets sometimes tear up the house? Why do circus animals sometimes go on rampages? Why do millions of people get stress diseases and mental illnesses? Why do some people shoot up their workplaces and schools? Somewhere along the way they have been denied their true natures. Looking back on my life, I remember that I was interested in the same few things at 5 and 10 years old as I am now. There is no such thing as changing, as I hear so many people say, like they saw the great Buddha then changed, or a man who used to beat his wife says he saw the light of God and now doesn't beat her. You don't change. The only thing that can happen is that you can lose your way by getting brainwashed, then possibly find it again by peeling off layers of the brainwash to eventually get back to the real, pure you. There is only one real pure you. Once you know it, that's it. Life is reduced to this one simple archetype or identity that is you. Everything else beyond this is a delusion where you're fooling yourself, because the entire crux of wisdom and enlightenment is discovering who you really are in your essence as a human being, then honoring it every day for the rest of your life. It's that simple. Once you know who you are purely in your essence as a human being, your consciousness will stay the same for life. You've gone as far as you can go in terms of enlightenment. It's just a matter of staying inspired and strong day after that. If you're naturally a self-centered, arrogant, mean son of a bitch, ain't nothing gonna change your true nature. Scrooge is a myth. I don't know of one middle-aged to old man anywhere who suddenly changed who he was. It doesn't happen except in fiction. Leopards don't change their spots. Your true nature is who you are the way you were born. All the psychobabble, New Age voodoo, religion, money, and makeovers in the world cannot change a person's inherent nature. They can cover it up to some extent, but it's always there lurking beneath the surface. Check out Anthony Burgess's novel Clockwork Orange. The point was so brilliant in its simplicity. After all the psychological therapy, prodding and analysis all these experts did on this guy who was a psychopathic madman. He acted like he was cured, but it all came flooding back in one instant. He was as primal and basic as he always was. They didn't cure him. The implication was that the entire mental health industry with all its fancy-ass psychobabble is a big crock of crap because you can't change a person's soul or essence as a human being with all the stupid therapies they created and are trying to call a science of human behavior. I see all kinds of Christians pretend to be kind and loving, but when their personal comfort levels get threatened or someone does something like cuts them off in traffic, I see the same jealousy, anger, hate and violence as I see in anyone. Take a look at our modern world. We're basic people who lived agrarian, hunter-gatherer lifestyles until about 100 years ago. Now we're dressing in suits, working in office buildings, talking on our cell phones, trying to acquire more wealth for ourselves than we know what to do with. This is the game of capitalist success in our society. While I'm still the same kid I was at 5 years old and the same untamed bohemian I was at 22, trying to get a good dose of living every day by doing what I want that inspires me, interests me, and makes me feel good. You can try to acquire all the money and power you want, but if you're following an artificial code imposed on you to do this, as with the game of capitalist success, as opposed to your natural code, you will be releasing energy not inherent to you, while your natural energy will sit inside of you unused. Over time, this will turn you into a tired, generic dud. I know that the finite time of my life is all I own, so I make good use of it every day by following my true nature to get some inspiration, transcendence, joy, euphoria, peace, love, and fun out of the deal. If I keep going like I'm going now, I'll still be vital, inspired, easygoing and feeling good in my old age, unlike all those guys who traded their vital years pursuing some illusion of success which wasted their time and wore them down. All these stupid people make New Year's resolutions where they think they're gonna change, improve or do something in some dull, artificial goal-setting way, as the psychobablists like to say, but everything that is not inherent to you will fade within a few hours to a few days. If you make a New Year's resolution, you're showing someone like me that you're not enlightened, because if you were, you would be who you are and follow your soul all the time, not wait until some random day that corresponds to the first day on some calendar of time someone created to try to do something. You would live every day naturally, following who you are the way you were born. Natural living is to love what you do because it comes from your soul. Everything else is just a minor diversion or doesn't work because it doesn't come from within you, therefore to you, it's dull and uninteresting, so you don't do it. If it doesn't interest me, I don't care how so-called cool, cutting edge or fashionable it is. I won't do it. How many people started playing poker or taking dance classes when all these poker and dance shows hit mainstream TV? I didn't watch them, nor did they interest me. Lost souls think they change because they have no solid sense of who they are in their souls, so they're all over the place looking for something to hook onto to get a sense of identity from. But if they knew who they were, they would just have this one fixed identity made up of a few archetypes or things they like to do, and that would be it. Life would be very simple then. When you're enlightened, you know who you are. You know the few things that inspire you and make you feel good, so life is reduced to the pursuit of these activities. Everything else is either minor amusement or nothing worth wasting your time on, since your primary purpose is to stay pure and not get polluted by all the stuff out there that's not inherent to who you are. You don't have to go around searching obsessively like all these people I know who don't know themselves, so they're checking out all those foolish new age, psychobabble type ideas out there coming on the scene all the time, marketed as new, cutting edge knowledge, but it's all a scam to sell books. I know a 74-year-old woman who has not discovered her true identity, so she's always reading new age, psychobabble type books about silly concepts, thinking she's enlightening herself. I told her that quantitative knowledge does not equal wisdom. Wisdom is knowing who you are and knowing that no one out there knows anything more about your life than you, so you alone are your highest authority. I'm still amazed at how few people know this and live by it. All religions, new ageisms, and self-help / psychobabble are external to me. None of them can match the internal, intuitive standard I was born with inside of me. I have the ability to be as enlightened as the wisest human who ever walked the planet. I just have to take my ride of the human condition as far as I can go. I've already done it. That's when I became enlightened. My major finding was that I merely have to release enough natural energy to match my own intuitive standard every day. If I do that, I beat virtually everyone in the experience and enjoyment of life day by day. It's not about bowing down to some external deity as with religion, because there's no evidence that there's a God up there helping his flock when they need an extra boost. The fundamental concept of New Ageism, the power of intention, is a lie, because there is no such thing as people sending out positive vibrations through positive intentions such that the cosmic power of the universe responds by sending you what you want in your wishes and dreams just because you asked for it and you're worth it, like the hair coloring TV commercial says. The latest incarnation was the marketing hype sensation The Secret, which has been the biggest New Age/psychobabble con job perpetuated on the naive masses in the past several years, pretending that if you go out with a positive attitude such that you give off certain vibrations, you will attract people to you by the law of attraction who will give you what you want. The book is a lie, because The Secret didn't exist until it was created as a New Age concept several years ago, yet it cites a number of so-called famous people in the past as having lived by it. All the great people in the past lived by what they felt within themselves purely and freely, like all enlightened people do, not by some silly concept of positive vibrations to attract people to give them what they want. New Ageism is based on the lie that the universe gives you what you need when you're supposedly ready in your journey to spiritual harmony. Get real. The universe is totally random. There's nothing out there that's controlling life on Earth through some bullshit karma concept. On the news on any given night, some fluke will win the lottery while another fluke will be hit by a stray bullet or die in a car accident. As the creator of the free spirit ideology, I'm saying the entire New Age industry is a big crock of marketing crap for weak people and phony gurus trying to suck them in for their money. I'm amazed that people still fall for this stuff in the 21st century. Are we that stupid? If this power of positive intention crap was true, why are there 100 million starving artists out there? They have the greatest intentions of anybody in the world, always trying to create beauty, truth, and perfection, yet nobody is giving them what they all want, recognition and money. The problem with every New Age and religious inspirational book out there is that they take the passive approach to life, aka wishful thinking. You either pray or send out positive vibrations, then you wait for something outside of yourself to come to you and make all your dreams come true, cause, of course, you're special and worth it. Enlightened free spirits don't wait for some cosmic force or God to give us something. We just do by the power we feel within ourselves. As far as the self-help industry goes, every psychobabble book ever written has X number of steps, stages, strategies, or rules that you must follow to achieve their version of success and happiness, usually the capitalist version, which they assume is the only one path to satisfaction in life, but they all fail because a bunch of disjointed rules are an artificial code placed on you. They last at the most about 1 day. After that, whatever inspiration you sucked out of them is long gone. You have to rely on the only thing that's real, the engine that is your life, the purity in your soul. I'll prove it to you. Read the 2 one-liner master list of life sections right after the next paragraph and see how long they can keep you inspired for. I'll bet you'll forget all these steps by tomorrow, yet this is what every self-help book ever written is based on, X number of generic, common sense steps that altogether don't amount to anything because they don't address the engine that is your life. Free spiritism is to actively create your life through who you are, what you do and who you want to be. You honor the intuitive standard you were born with every day by releasing natural energy to that end. The more you do it and the less you let outside forces enter into you, the more enlightened, pure, free and happy you will be. The one-liner master list of life 1. I'm including these 2 one-liner master list sections to show you how futile all psychobabble is if it doesn't address the one essence that is you. All the cool-sounding one-liners in the world will fade within a few hours after you hear them. According to conventional psychologists and philosophers who have attempted to define what it takes and means to be fully human, the following criteria are all necessary to get the most out of life. I got this list by perusing maybe 20 books in the self-help section at the library, number 155 on the Dewey Decimal Scale. Believe in something like yourself or God. Don't let anyone steal your joy. Work hard at what you believe in. You will get what you expect, either good or bad. Nothing is gonna happen unless you first believe in it. Keep the right perspective of your problems. Don't make a mountain out of a molehill. Don't magnify the negative. Magnify the positive. Act out of integrity and truth. A desire to be part of the world in daily activities and contribute to it. Attempt to live for a deeper reality than the norm. Awareness of the negative sides and control of them. Compassion for others. Focus on those things that matter to you. General curiosity about life. Honesty. Inner stability and calmness. Intense about things that matter to you. Kindness. Live full lives and help others do the same. Lots of energy. Love of life. Love for kindred spirits and soulmates. No strong need for material things beyond the basics. Peace and nonviolence. Positive attitudes. Pure motives, no hidden ulterior motives. Simplicity. Straightforward, direct. Try to help others. Strong inner strength. Want for nothing, happy in the moment. Speak through your actions. Speak the truth. Don't speak too much. Listen to everyone with respect and interest. Don't gossip, criticize or slander. Be a person of your word. Don't be trivial. Pay your debts. Honor your commitments. Accept sickness, old age, and death. Accept the uncertainty of life. Accept your limitations. Autonomy. Avoid negative people. Become your own person. Be responsible for your own happiness. Be soft and gentle. Be the best you can be. Believe in God. Character. Competence in chosen field. Create your life day by day. Empathy. Enjoy your life. Forgiveness. Fulfill your potential. Get rid of the delusion that you're the center of the universe to see yourself as a fallible human being. Have goals and dreams and stick to them. Independence. Inspired and motivated, not lazy and passive. Live by action and achievement. Live in the real world. Love people. Morality. Not dependent on parents. Persistence, perseverance, never giving up because you know all you got is personal effort day after day. Physical fitness. Pursuit of happiness. Renunciation of childish, teenage fantasies of grandeur. Respect heroic effort and use it to inspire yourself. Responsibility for your life. Responsible to significant others like spouse, kids, disabled siblings, and parents. Secure sense of identity. See failure as a learning experience on the road of life. Self-awareness, self-analysis. Self-discipline. Self-pride, self-love. Sense of social responsibility. Serious about life as opposed to frivolous. Sex and love. Social ability. Spiritual identity. Strive for greatness. Strive for truth. Use your creative powers. Wisdom. The one-liner master list of life too. Anybody who knows me knows I regularly slam the psychobabble, self-help industry with all their one-liners that amount to less wisdom than there is in the book of Proverbs written 2,500 years ago because you are a holistic engine called your soul or your essence. One-liners or steps and stages can't help you much because at heart, you are who you were born as. You can't change your true nature. All the one-liner strategies and stages all those psychobablists have ever written will fade away because you always go back to who you really are by your nature whether you are consciously aware of it or not. That's why I wrote a free spirit search for enlightenment, to show anyone who's interested how I discovered that I live by a natural, intuitive standard that predisposes me to feel that I must release a certain amount of inspired aesthetic loving energy every day in order to do justice to the human being I want to be. That's the code I live by. Sometimes when I'm at the library, I drop by the psychobabble, self-help section, which is at number 158, hashtag 306.7, love, relationships, or BF 500-700, and pick up a few books looking to see if anyone has become as enlightened as I am yet, or are they still spewing off their X number of disjointed one-liners about how to be happy, successful, fabulous, loving, glorious, etc. It's all meaningless to me since I live by an internal code that tells me everything I need to know and do, but it's still a minor exercise in inspiration and aesthetics for me that stimulates my mind to write cheesy articles like this that summarize a bunch of these one-liner points from my own point of view. I went through the titles in the table of contents section of about a dozen self-help books, and whenever the title inspired an idea within me, I wrote it out. I never read the books, just read the table of contents, so this article is a mix of my own ideas with classical, cheesy psychobabble, all to help make you a superhuman being excited about your life and a super-duper lover. It reminds of what a buddy of mine did about 20 years ago before either of us were enlightened. We were inspired people, but we didn't know who we really were then. Whenever I went up to his place, I'd see a bunch of one-liners about setting goals and positive power plastered all over his mirror and his fridge. You might think this helps you, but it's really band-aids on the bigger problem, knowing exactly who you are and living to honor it. That's all you really need to know. All the psychobabble in the world fades next to knowing this and making the effort to honor it every day with a joy in your heart for having the ability and the opportunity to pursue becoming the person you were born to be, i.e., be thankful for who you are, because that's who you'll be on your deathbed. The only question will be whether you honored this essence given to you at your birth. Here are some more one-liners to laugh at or get inspiration from. It's your choice on what to do with this list. The keys to success are intention, inspiration, creativity, beauty, love, kindness, abundance, expansive, receptive. Want more for others than you want for yourself. Think from the end. See yourself the way you want to be in your ideal state. Appreciate your life rather than curse the wind. Stay in rapport with source energy, which means stay connected to your true nature/soul. Contemplate your life. Understand the art of allowing. Take the path of least resistance. Practice radical humility. Be in a constant state of gratitude. You can't resolve a problem by condemning it. Be intentional. Meditate. Be a morally good person. Don't interfere with other people's lives unless they invite you in. Be a positive, upbeat person. Nobody really wants to be around miserable people. Everybody's got a sob story. Keep it to yourself. Set goals and work on them little by little, day by day. Clouds have silver linings. Learn from the tough, negative events in your life. You live alone in your mind. You and only you create how you think, the attitude you live by. Fear and worry are things only low-level, unenlightened people do. I deal with the here and now, in the moment, and that's about it. The past is gone, so I don't bother thinking about it. The future isn't here yet, so I don't think about it. Try to be loving or positive. If you can't do that, be neutral, leave people alone as opposed to being negative or taunting. Be thankful for what you got. Be patient. After all, you'll be stuck in the same mind and the same consciousness for the rest of your life, regardless of what you get or don't get here on earth. Trust your intuition. Use it. Strive to feel good, to be happy. You get what you want in business by helping others get what they want. If you're ever feeling down, volunteer at a homeless shelter or to help patients in a cancer ward for a while. Most of our problems are nothing next to people with real problems. I'm thankful for my health. Don't concern yourself with how other people live. It breeds envy. Don't watch those entertainment tabloid shows on TV. They're geared to make you feel envious of these people so that you buy into the lie that they're living better lives than you, then buy the crap they advertise to try to imitate this delusion to being yourself up a notch. If you're enlightened and honor yourself, the grass is not greener anywhere. Your grudges over other people are toxic to you too. Let go. Forget about them. Life is not fair. Everybody's got a sob story. So what? Take your licks and keep moving. You can always visit that cancer ward and see who's really suffering. Don't be neurotic about the standards of the world. Live by your own standard but enjoy your life at the same time. Don't be like the tortured artist who is desperate to create his vision of perfection, or the buttoned-up career girl intent on making it in a man's world so much that she loses her personality. In the end, nobody really cares. They're all living in their own heads. All that matters is what you think. Nobody likes an incessant talker, a braggart, a smartapants with a sarcastic mouth, or a know-it-all. Keep your mouth shut or talk quietly with few words. Never give unsolicited advice. People just resent you for thinking you're so superior to them, at least that's what they think you're thinking. You can only live one day at a time. Don't look out there for a person or something like money and stuff to make you happy. If you find happiness, this is what attracts potential lovers to you, but you have to be happy to be attractive to them in the first place. Don't play the woe is me victim. I can see that every day on the TV talk shows, but I don't watch them because I think they're pathetic and cause a negative effect on our society, all these wimps complaining about their lives. You can't make other people happy. You can only help them by being kind to a certain point. They have to do the rest themselves. When in doubt, be kind and compassionate. Love goes from the inside out. Discover who you are, shine this light onto the world. Be a positive force. Help people and you'll get the love back multiplied. Don't get so caught up in making it that you forget to smell the roses. If you love what you do, it's not work. It's fun. If you're feeling down, rest. Get a good night's sleep. We were created to do physical activity. You can't be sad or stressed when you're fully engaged in some manner of physical motion. Happiness is peace of mind. Be true to the conscience your God endowed you with. In my opinion, the more you fill yourself up with pop culture capitalism and the less you strive to live an inspired, original life for yourself, the worse off you'll be. Try not to fight. If you're with an arguer, get rid of them. If it's a relative, try to minimize contact with them. Be kind to your loved ones. Respect them. Do little things for them every day. Don't live in fairy tales or delusions. Live in the real world. Do some activity with your spouse and kids almost every day to bond with them. Don't be fake to others. Be the real you. It's soul over image. Money can be a headache, which is why I have few needs. My expenses are tiny compared to most other people. I will never own a cell phone despite all the cell phone commercials I see on TV all the time. Don't assume. People can't read minds. Tell them what's on yours rather than silently fuming about it. Go easy on addictions. They signal that you're not in harmony with yourself. It's better to have peace than to try to win at all costs. Be easygoing and lighthearted. Try to be friends with the people you deal with all the time. Try to get along with everybody. Watch less TV. Spend more time culturing the original, inspired and beautiful you. It's okay to agree to disagree and still be friends. I hear a certain radio talk show host disagree with all kinds of people, but they still remain friends because he keeps having them back on his show. People like people who are open but not too open to the point of embarrassment. People would rather know what you're thinking by talking to you than have you quietly in the corner all by yourself, because then they don't know where your head is at. Are you thinking of killing them or are you happy as is? They don't know unless you talk to them. If you claim to love someone, you have to show them day by day. Letting it be is not good enough. It shows ambivalence. Give a little bit in relations with people. You have to compromise sometimes. When you're tired, go to sleep. Don't stay up feeling miserable. Take care of your grooming. Wear clean clothes. Live in the present, not the past nor the future. Don't burden people with your problems. Don't keep secrets from loved ones. Tell the truth, otherwise get out of it. We're only human. Overlook minor faults in others. Jesus said, "Let him who has not sinned cast the first stone." Don't be too critical. If you want to do something, don't wait. A long journey starts with one footstep. Don't procrastinate. Listen to music. It's good for the soul. Be loyal to your friends and loved ones. Expect the intensity of romantic love to fade. Replace it with kindness, caring and loyalty, that is, if your partner is worth it to you. If not, get out. Don't listen to gossip or be a busybody. Watch your loved ones. Be sensitive enough to pick up on when they're angry at you or feeling blue, then subtly do your bit to solve the problem. Talk out your problems. Apologize when you're wrong. Respect yourself. Respect others. Love the one you're with, otherwise get out of there. Don't hang around with people you don't love, including your spouse. Get a divorce. It's the best way to go for an unhappy relationship. Cooperation is better than competition. Show your love to your loved ones. Always look on the bright side. Let go of archaic traditions that don't help make you feel good. Don't compare yourself to others. See it from the other guy's point of view. Walk a mile in their shoes. Why I rejected the world's wisdom. The so-called system-sanctioned wise people in the non-scientific liberal arts fields, sometimes called social scientists, which is an oxymoron, have firstly all been programmed by some limited agenda at some school, and secondly not one has been brave enough or strong enough to live their lives freely and examine themselves as a case study of one. If they did, they wouldn't be a system clone pretending they know something that the regular people don't know, with all that crap they learned in school masquerading as knowledge and wisdom. They'd be living their own lives for the great adventure it's supposed to be, at least for truly free, enlightened people. Contrary to the myth, the most free-thinking intellectuals within the human race are not on college campuses, because formal education packages thought into separate fields and categories, then limits it in light of the current cultural zeitgeist, aka political correctness. The true free-thinking intellectuals are way too free and enlightened to waste time bothering with this charade. They're too busy being real with themselves, trying to get the most out of their finite lives, than to pretend they're wise intellectuals just because they allowed themselves to get brainwashed by the system in order to get some kind of credential proclaiming them to be an expert in some liberal arts field of life. The system academics in the humanities fields can spew off all kinds of theories, but many have never been out of their comfort zones even once in their lives to try to experience life for themselves in order to feel it and learn from it, yet we call them our wise people because they can regurgitate stuff from books written by other fallible people within the protocols of the particular academic field they're in. It's somebody else's version of knowledge and wisdom that somebody who has not experienced it firsthand is teaching out of a book. The formal education system has created such academic fields as psychology, philosophy, art history, and sociology, which are just ideas some people created out of thin air who are no more special or divine than you or me. Even history is a load of bull, because history is whitewashed crap written by the winners of the wars and the people in power, not the truth. In fact, all the soft-core humanities disciplines like literature, political science, art, etc. are somebody's interpretation of what is real, cool, divine and/or wise. A little piece of knowledge from these areas might hit a certain student and inspire him or her to become a better version of themselves, but there's nothing out there in college or anywhere else except for a few new age venues where they tell you to think for yourself. Figure your own life out. If they did, maybe they would lose revenue as people stopped taking all those softball liberal arts courses that usually amount to no great insights about life as lived. The problem with college for the liberal arts is brainwash. They're brainwashing us to whatever bent the particular professor or school is into. On top of that, your thinking is reduced to one field only. You can't bring other free thoughts in from other subjects, and then there's the pretense that it's science with all them stupid experiments and the whole definition of knowledge thing. Albert Bandura, professional psychologist, gets one of his college students to hit a Brutus doll while some kids watch. The college student leaves, the kids hit the bag. Bandura says this is proof that kids learn to be violent by imitating adults. What really happened is that the kids were having some transient fun which they would forget by tomorrow. Hansi Znek, a professional psychologist, creates some test that supposedly measures how introverted or extrovert you are, but he seems to forget that introversion-extroversion is transitory in everyone. We are introverted or extrovert depending on our current mood and the situation we're in. If we're with friends, we're extrovert. If we're with strangers, we're more reserved. It's manufactured knowledge that has no bearing on real life in the real world. Nobody ever talks about the natural intrinsic thirst for knowledge for its own sake. Somewhere along the way the love of learning got lost. It's all packaged into fields, courses, tests, essays, the final grade and credentials, but there is no such thing as a so-called expert in any non-scientific field because everybody has their own opinion and it's just as valid as the next guy's, that is, if you're being fair about it. There's no right or wrong in some field like psychology, but the heads beg to differ. It's all a clean, neat package of theories and ideas which have no divine or scientific foundation, so it's really no more true or advanced than anyone's opinion who has thought a subject through, but they insist presenting this knowledge as dogma when the truth is that a lot of it is pure crap. The truly wise people are natural intellectuals who figure out their lives on their own because they know they must from an invisible force within themselves. Then they continue to learn because that's what they were born to do. Why don't the colleges have a mandatory course for freshmen called Learning to Think for Yourself, where they tell people the outside world of all ideas that are not scientific or physical law were all created by people just like themselves? They should explore them and think about the ones they like, but always trust only themselves as to what constitutes knowledge or wisdom for them. I thought James Joyce's novel Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man was a good story about how the character Stephen Dedalus confronted and questioned the traditional Irish institutions he was brought up to believe in, to reject them all, to live by his own standard. But James Joyce, the man, was a temperamental, arrogant drunk who couldn't get along with people, not even his wife. It's not like I'm gonna worship this guy and think he's got all the answers to life. The organic study of the physical brain in the field of psychology has true merit, but other than that, it's just a bunch of psychobabble that has no more validity than anyone thinking about their lives, even if they do those stupid so-called scientific, quantitative methods experiments that always have the same qualifiers in the results, using such adjectives as could, might, tend, possibly, may, which is useless knowledge because it's all either common sense or human behavior is much too erratic for anyone to accurately predict. Any individual living their lives in the real world, analyzing their experiences to come to their own conclusions, can become as enlightened as the most enlightened person who ever walked on the planet, but the formal education system is trying to tell you that they have the answers within their packaged courses. Just shell out your money and go there. Then after it's all done, you should realize, as I did, that they're all somebody else's ideas. They don't come close to what I intuitively feel about my life as lived day by day. When you reach that point where you trust yourself over all the institutions, talking heads and charlatans in the world, congratulations, you're enlightened. If you're still looking to someone else to give you some answers, like the priest at church every Sunday, you buy the latest self-help book hyped up on a talk show, or you're deeply interested in the ideas of others and give some of them godlike status by virtue of their credentials or position somewhere, you're still a lost soul. Chapter 3. Not a system clone. We're lost, brainwashed souls. Forget all the psychobabble you've ever been told about living a great life. The only thing that matters is that you have to do justice to yourself every single day. When you wake up every morning, your main thoughts should be focused on releasing the natural energy in your essence or soul to meet the inherent standard you should feel within yourself of what is noble and nakedly primal for you, that makes you feel like you honored who your Creator, God, made you to be. Do it for that one day every single day. This is the only way that you can make yourself feel good about your life in a euphoric way, day after day, forever. You have to do what you love to earn a living, otherwise it's like you're spinning your wheels. It doesn't matter what you accomplish according to world standards by doing something you're not particularly interested in, such as making a lot of money or getting a high status position. If you're not releasing the bulk of your natural energy day after day, over time, you'll lose your inspired spark for creativity, originality, sensuality, aesthetics, passion, love and happiness. Generic flatline living will sap your spirit, which will eventually destroy your body, mind, and soul bit by bit, day by day, not to mention that your quality of life is not very good. Combine the stress of a job you don't really like with a passive consumer spectator lifestyle after work and you got no real quality of life to speak of. It's not like living by the beauty and free flow of your true nature, but this is the prosperous new world. A bunch of pacified fat asses working jobs that are artificial to their true natures, sitting on their asses watching TV, eating good tasting junk food. This is what success means to most people: to be able to earn enough money to eat well, buy trendy clothes and useless gadgets at the mall, and be entertained by the box. There are 3 types of natural energy that can take your daily mood from average to good, euphoric, and transcendent, and build up a wealth of vitality and health within you. Inspired, sensual, hedonistic, loving. You're no different than a dog. If he gets to do what he was born to do, which is to run around and explore the stuff around him, he feels pretty good. If he doesn't, he gets a gnawing, empty feeling inside. He sits in the house or chained up feeling unfulfilled, then after a while he gives into this helpless feeling and lives by it. He loses his natural spark. He gets like this through not following his true nature day after day. First, he gets mundane and lethargic. He reacts to the stress of his artificial lifestyle by either gaining or losing weight. He'll act out his frustrations by either being angry and aggressive or retreating into himself. Over time, he'll eventually lose his connection to his true nature, becoming pacified and depressed. This is the story of life for any human being who takes on the artificial values of the world while letting his or her true nature rot away. The path to the greatest life possible is to release the natural energy you feel within yourself when you wake up every morning to meet the inherent standard of who you feel you were born to be. The purpose of life is to keep a strong, pure, free spirit throughout this finite experience of time that is exclusively yours. The idea is to run with it strongly, bravely, and aesthetically till you die. You just have to keep releasing the natural energy you feel in your soul every day. This keeps you close to the person you were born with the potential to be by nature. If you do this one thing, you'll feel as good as you possibly can day by day. Then when you get old, you will be strong from a life well lived following your true nature, being true to yourself to stay as pure as you were the day you were born, manipulated by none. The mind, body, and soul are one. Anybody who's overweight or in poor health cannot possibly be happy. They're out of harmony with themselves. They say that 2/3 of the American population are overweight. That's a lot of disharmony. Material prosperity doesn't necessarily lead to enlightenment and the pursuit of happiness. It leads to cheap thrills, passive entertainment, and the overconsumption of good-tasting junk food. This is not happiness. Happiness is a feeling of freedom and control of oneself. The natural archetype: everybody has a blueprint for a great life. It's a good mental exercise to try to identify the archetypes within you, the few things that define your essence as a human being. I know mine. They're very simple. I have no other interests besides them. When people ask me why lover is not there, I say I try to love whoever I'm with in the current moment. I believe that you cannot be a great lover until you're strongly connected to your purity or essence as an individual, because this makes you feel good enough to want to share your life and connect intimately with other people and animals. My main archetypes are: Tarzan, physically vital untamed man; the thinker, independent intellectual thought; creative bohemian, a psychedelic, multicolored view of life. I generate my own original ideas. I try to think actively all the time by creating great fantasies, thoughts, and ideas. It's funny to me that in college I still remember a professor telling me I make the weirdest connections between things. It was meant as a put down to put me in my place, try to get me to conform to accepted dogma in the liberal arts, but it just proved to me how anti-intellectual colleges are, even in the social sciences. Everything is packaged knowledge that they want you to regurgitate. It creates a bunch of clones not wise enough to see that it's all bullshit because everybody is their own end in life. Other people's theories are bullshit to enlightened people who create their own ideas and live by what they feel. Hedonism. I believe the Romans had a god named Bacchus who was technically the god of wine, but he really represented the experience of the intense pleasurable sensations of life. For most people, it's sex, drugs, music, food, and free movement like dancing. Of course there's love, but I dedicated another book to that. My main surreal archetype is me swinging on a vine in the jungle, then I dive off a waterfall and swim across the lake to my tribe of nature people like me. We watch a glorious sunset as we drink a herbal concoction like ayahuasca or cocaine, then eat and dance by a bonfire under the stars throughout the night to the beat of drums interspersed with bouts of romantic, sensual bliss. I don't know where this vision came from. It was always there. My Creator put it into my soul. It's my version of the Garden of Eden. No matter what I do in the so-called real world, I always have this image of doing a long swim, then catching a buzz on the beach surrounded by beautiful, young women enjoying the ride too. On my deathbed, I'll probably be thinking about it as I cross to the other side. It's like Papillion in the movie. He finally found bliss and freedom all in one. Everything comes down to freeing myself from that normal, bland state of consciousness that people have when they don't do anything intense, pure, unfettered, or free. It's all about releasing what's in my spirit, to feel my freedom of a natural, powerful life. I am a primal being who stays close to my primal self. I'm hooked on the freeing effect of constant motion and a mind racing with psychedelic thoughts as with drinking ayahuasca or doing other mind-altering substances. I love that feeling of running with my life because I know it's finite and will end at some point in time, which is why I'm so urgent about lusting for it every day. The best movie I ever saw, Papillion from 1974, was still just an orchestrated fictional bunch of scenes about some guy escaping from a French penal colony over and over again, but it still can't compete with the high I get from doing the tough, inspired, creative, sensual things I do day after day. Looking back on it now, I figured out why it's the only movie that sticks out in my mind of the several thousand I must have seen in my life. It was not only the primalism of his desire to be free, but there was that beach scene of natural man in the jungle with beautiful, scantily clad young women. It goes right back to my Garden of Eden archetype. I can't remember anything else I ever saw on a screen that comes close. If somebody asked me what my second favorite movie of all time is, my mind draws a blank. There's nothing. You sometimes hear people saying some movie or story affected them and changed their lives. It's not true. All it can do is reinforce what's already inside of you, like Papillion did for me. When I first saw it as a 16-year-old kid, I thought it was really cool. Then when I saw it again 20 years later, I realized he found his paradise, but he lost it by choosing to return to the modern, civilized world. It's an allegory for modern life. We've gotten away from our pure, natural roots. That's the tragedy. After that, everything else is just minor disposable entertainment to me. You forget it all in an hour when you're watching the next show. Anything that's worthy and has high value to an individual is something they actively do through their own effort. At the end of the day, pop culture entertainment does nothing for the aesthetic spiritual pursuit of your life. Your own reality that you create should be much more interesting than anything the pop culture mass media machine creates, but for most people, it isn't. The people who live the greatest lives are the few who manage to live purely by their free spirits the way their God created them to be, with no interference from the indoctrinating forces of the world. If you don't live like this, everything else is a bust, because once you lose a connection to your divine natural primal essence and replace it either with the pursuits of capitalism, pop culture coolness, fashion, religion, or something else, the pure, free you starts to fade away bit by bit until you're a generic person like most of the people you're surrounded by. These generic people are comfortable and functional enough when you talk to them, but there is no intensity, inspiration, urgency or euphoric sensuality in their lives. It's a flat line. They generally work routine jobs or go to school, then live as consumers after that, consuming food, drink, trendy clothes, home decor, cute gadgets, gossip, religion, psychobabble, new age ideas and pop culture entertainment. They're missing out on true joy on a daily basis because they don't have the guts, strength, or intelligence to realize all you are is who you were born to be by nature, therefore they don't follow it. If you violate your true nature repeatedly day after day by not releasing your natural energy, eventually you lose your spark for life, which is everything that matters to a high quality of living. The only two rules of life are: you have to earn a living to cover the basic practical needs of life unless you're in jail, supported by someone, or financially secure. You can't interfere with other people's lives or otherwise break rules that will get you thrown into either jail or the nuthus. Beyond these rules, most people want to get love and give some back, which is all fine and good, but after this, your life is yours. Everyone lives alone in their head most of the time, so you must find happiness within yourself, otherwise all the love, money, status, religion, and fame in the world won't help you much. There's only one way to go through life feeling happy and strong virtually all the time. Firstly, you have to realize that all you are is a free spirit living here on planet Earth for a while. What happens after doesn't matter right now. The only important thing is to maximize the use of your life right here, right now, and the only way you can possibly do that is to know who you are by nature, then honor it by releasing your natural energy every single day. You can't lose your free spirit. It's an inherent part of you. This purity is always there inside of you. It's your inherent natural archetype, but if you don't exercise it and allow yourself to get indoctrinated by the artificial values of the world, your free spirit gets covered over by all the stuff from out there and subsequently gets weak, flabby, mundane, tired, and depressed, but it's still there even though it's weak, brainwashed and tired. To my way of thinking, there's one basic natural archetype that everybody was born with. As you develop consciousness, you naturally see yourself as physically strong, vital, beautiful, intelligent, inspired, sensuous, loving and happy in the aesthetic sense. If you're following who you were born to be, you feel good, kinda like you're riding a free-flowing adventure of life. This is what I naturally felt as a kid and what I feel right now. Why should anyone feel any different? Even children born with disabilities still feel pretty good as they are and get along pretty good with what they got despite the nuisance of the handicap, until society comes in and starts to indoctrinate them into feeling deficient and inferior. We're all born with the potential for living a good to great life with what we got, but somewhere along the way most of us either get brainwashed or we're too weak to put in the effort it takes to stay inspired and feeling good about our lives, because it's so much easier to follow the system rather than trying to follow ourselves as individuals. You have to follow your true nature and release your natural energy every day to a level that satisfies you that you're honoring yourself the way God created you to be, but most people will bypass their true natures entirely and allow themselves to get indoctrinated by the artificial values of the world. I don't understand all that negativity stuff that psychobabble is based on, people supposedly yoked to negative things in their past. Nor do I understand capitalist pop culture marketing, which is geared to make people feel deficient so that they will continuously buy stuff to match some illusory idea of happiness they got from the fantasy land of the mass media. You were born with one natural archetype. It's good, happy and strong. Follow it by releasing that energy you feel inside. Most people won't, which is why I believe that multi-millions of people in the United States alone are on antidepressant drugs which can't help them because their problem is aesthetic, spiritual, not mental or physiological. Everything is a lie except for that one archetype you got in your head, or at least had in your head when you were young, strong, idealistic, and probably naive. If you follow it by releasing your natural energy to honor it every day, you'll feel as good as you possibly can. Everything else in life is less as far as quality of life goes. Most people lose a connection to who they are by nature. It's not that big of a deal because just about everybody is brainwashed by the same few things, like the pursuit of capitalist success, materialism, pop culture entertainment, religion, New Ageism, the mainstream news and self-help psychobabble. The result is a society of people all brainwashed by the same things as a collective, so they don't feel left out and alienated. They feel comfortable as conformists because they share a common ground with each other as conformists to the mainstream societal view, even though they're living mundane lives next to the spirit of the natural archetypes they were born with. They were seduced and indoctrinated so handily that this layer of brainwash now covers over their true nature. Deep down inside they feel a gnawing sense of emptiness, that something is not quite right with their lives, but they don't know what it is. It's your true nature crying out, telling you to release it every day, day by day. Most people have the grace of youth at 20 when they look and feel good, but by 40, you're the person you've lived as for the past 20 years. Most 40-year-olds are spiritually aesthetically dead. They've lost a connection to the natural archetype of beauty and power they were born with. It's evident on their faces, bodies, mannerisms, and the way they speak. After taking care of practical needs, the next most important issue of life is simple: to follow whatever might be original and inspired within ourselves, as opposed to being led by cultural indoctrination. True art is trying to transcend life by trying to create a moment of perfect beauty or profound truth that captures the higher reaches of the human spirit and frees the artist from the bondage of life in the physical, real world by purging his unique message out of himself. James Joyce gave me the image of the artist freeing himself from the mundanity of life in that beach scene where Stephen Dedalus is throwing off his past, running on the beach watching the seagulls soaring pure and free. But how often do you see scenes like this that actually mean something about life? Almost never. It's nice to be inspired by great works of truth, beauty, and perfection by kindred spirit enlightened masters out there, but everything fades as you find yourself alone facing your own internal standard of creating truth, beauty and perfection in your own way. You either use up your natural energy pursuing this end and feeling good in the process, or you let it sit inside unused, which always leaves you with that empty feeling of self-betrayal whether you realize it or not. If you feel an intense need to purge the artistic beauty or pain from your soul, do it, but don't sell your soul exploiting yourself for pop culture success, because it's self-exploitation and ends up leaving you feeling empty sooner or later. cap.org/archetypes. goddess.com.au. goddessgift.com/read_personality_archetypes.htm. goddess-guide.com/archetypes.html. men-myths-minds.com/personality-test-online.html. Personality tests, the archetype quiz. meta-religion.com/psychiatry/analytical_psychology/gallery_of_archetypes.htm. okcupid.com/test/the-new-greek-goddess-archetype-test. arahourkuit.net/goddess/ancient_priestesses/embodiment_of_the_goddess.html. sex-is-sacred.org/archetypes.htm. The typical brainwashed life. I started out like any well-intentioned kid in grade school. I wanted to succeed within the system, so I went to college and became a teacher, whereupon I tried to live a yuppie lifestyle, which is all about working a so-called professional job, buying material things I didn't need in order to match some illusion of a cool, successful lifestyle I got brainwashed by from the capitalist system, mass media, and pop culture entertainment I was brought up to believe in and live by. My life became a routine, working every day, trying to move up the career ladder, making money so I could buy more material things I didn't need and upgrade my house and car every few years. After about a decade of this, I was about as empty as I had ever been in my life. I knew I couldn't go on doing this because it would mean a spiritual death and a wasted life for me. At the time, I didn't really understand what was happening to me, I just knew I was dying inside. I quit my job, went out into the world seeking enlightenment, excitement, adventure, and fun. I did the proverbial hero's journey that Joseph Campbell talked about in his writings about the myths of the human condition. Myths in general are allegories about people leaving their homes to seek fame, fortune, and adventure out in the world, but the underlying theme of most myths are about the individual discovering who they really are after they peel off all the layers of their cultural conditioning to see themselves as pure, naked souls away from all that stuff they were brought up to believe in. This is the message I've seen in virtually every myth and legend I've ever read. It's not about what's going on out in the world. It's about an individual discovering who they really are in spite of the outside world they're surrounded by. They fight dragons, demons, and witches and otherwise get cut to pieces by the evil and adversity out in the world, then like the phoenix rising from the ashes, they slowly get back up and regenerate, a little wiser, more cynical, bruised and stronger than before. The thing is that now they're too wise to get sucked in by the charlatans of the world. They are individuals alone trusting only themselves. The outside world is just the setting or the stage through which an individual discovers the true meaning of life, which is to discover their true identity, who they really are, then live by it. That's what life comes down to. Who were you born to be by nature? Who are you in the midst of all the archetypes and possibilities out in the world and within your free thoughts? The adventure of life out in the world always has the same outcome for the hero or the protagonist of any great, noble story. He sheds his naive idealism and deluded, indoctrinated false beliefs to see that the world is nowhere near the rosy picture he was brought up to believe in. The hero goes out and sees how people really live, including the poor, the exploited, the desperate, the crazy, the wealthy, the elitists, the arrogant, the powerful and the criminal element. Then, like Scrooge in the Christmas Carol, he has an awakening. There's goodness inside of him. He will follow it by his own code. He will not be swayed or manipulated by anything out in the world anymore. He will follow himself purely and freely and do the right thing within his own conscience. Once you know the world is more Machiavellian than Pollyanna, you know that every organization, institution, and human being has the potential for evil, often in the name of good, so you don't have any utopian vision left anymore. You're now free to pursue the only thing you know for sure in this life, which is the purity you feel within yourself. This is the final outcome of every true hero's journey. The individual discovers every person and every institution is fallible, so he or she reverts to trusting only themselves, knowing who they are and honoring it. If you want to be an enlightened free spirit, you must not have allegiance to anything other than the spirit you feel with yourself. If there's a God, this is what he gave you. All institutions, organizations, religions, psychobabble, and New Age ideas were created by man, therefore they're fallible and cannot reach any higher in understanding the human condition than you or any individual can on their own. I traveled and met a lot of people until I realized that planet Earth is the same everywhere geographically, meaning that the sky is blue, the sun rises every day, trees are green and the earth is brown, so traveling lost its luster for me. Then I realized that people are the same everywhere. Human nature starts at self-centered and cycles to good or evil depending on a person's mood. There are very few people at either extreme of goodness or badness. Most of us are a gray mixture of good and bad, operating by our base emotions. Everybody, except for the most evil people, thinks they're kind, warm, and good. Just about everyone has been brainwashed by capitalism. If we were really as good as we like to think we are, we would share what we have and all the world's domestic problems would have been solved by now, but instead we live in a cutthroat world where people rob, plunder, exploit and kill each other for a few dollars, then try to build big houses with lots of security so they can hoard their wealth in peace. That's what's going on out in the world that no classroom can teach you. My big discovery about how to live. I didn't live like monks and New Age cults do in some communal type setting, but I did live alone with no job to answer to and enough money such that I didn't have to work for several years as long as I was frugal about it. It was then that I made my great discovery about the human condition. All my life I had been massively brainwashed to try to achieve success in the capitalist world so I could make lots of money, and some people within my community would recognize me as a very important person/VIP with some status. I was born with a certain pure essence as an individual that had been covered over by the ideals of capitalism, religion, and patriotism since I started watching TV and going to church at 3 years old. This pure essence, my true nature, came out partially in some of the interests of my youth, but I didn't realize that I had it or what it was until I was totally free to do anything I wanted to do. Day after day I found myself doing the same few things over and over again. These are what I call my inspired pursuits. They're mostly physical activities and creative intellectual pursuits. After this, I have some sensual hedonistic desires like any normal person, and I like to give love and get some back. Inspiration is derived from the words inspirited. Being inspired simply means that you're interested, excited, enthusiastic, stimulated and thrilled by what you're doing. There's no logical reason for what inspires you. It's an affair of your inherent free spirit. You're born that way. The problem is that in a world where other people's ideas are constantly assaulting you, first of all, you have to get over everything they're telling you to believe only in yourself as the instrument of your destiny. Then you have to find the few things in life that you're naturally drawn to. To live the way you were born to be is not about some capitalist dream of owning a big company and living in a big mansion. That's capitalist brainwash. It's not primal and basic enough to give you satisfaction out of your life. Satisfaction is to know what's primal and divine about you and release it all the time. It's about what you do every day to feel good about yourself, to be true to your nature, to be inspired, sensual and loving. Billions of people have already worked their asses off to reach some idea of capitalist bliss they had bound up in their minds, only to get there and discover that something is not quite right, the fact that they neglected their souls or true natures for all those years, and now they're a wreck of humanity. Their free spirits are weak. Whatever self-respect they have is fake self-respect that they get from their money, possessions, and perceived status out in the world, which doesn't mean anything because true self-respect is earned by being true to oneself day by day. The physical body is all anyone really owns. Wise people take care of them. Most people don't until after they've had a serious illness. Who cares what you own or what your status is out in the world if you're stressed out, overweight and in poor health? There's no logical reason why I was drawn to the untamed, primal Tarzan archetype, or why I was so curious about life that I was reading novels at 5 years old. As a kid, I was swimming across the lake and running around the woods because I loved doing it. It was natural to me. Then I did what most people do. I let the world brainwash me and cover over who I really was. After about 20 years of this, I felt the disharmony within myself, that inner empty feeling that something was not quite right with my life, even though I had all the markers and appearances of success in a capitalist world. Enlightenment was swift and simple. I realized I'm still the same person I was at 5 years old. My consciousness, the emotional holistic way I think, should be the same throughout my entire life. There's no reason for me or anyone to get brainwashed by the ideologies of the outside world, therefore alter our true natures, but this is the biggest cause of misery in life after our basic practical needs are met. I figured it out. All I have to do is honor my true nature every day by purging most of my natural energy one day at a time. This is what I was born to do. It gives me power, strength, inspiration, a sense of youthful spark, a feeling of pleasure, happiness, and euphoria, and a laughing contempt at the stupidity of this world I live in. It's the fountain of youth, the key to longevity. I can't think of anything else that I'd rather do than blow off that load of natural energy every day in its 3 facets: inspired, sensual, hedonistic, and loving. I was haphazardly doing what I wanted to do until one afternoon I was running around a park and using the exercise equipment they had there off Truxtun Avenue in Bakersfield, California. I looked over and saw all the traffic on the street, then wondered why are they all there and I'm the only one here running around on a nice day. It seems like the most natural thing to do when the weather is good: go outdoors and enjoy it. That day, I finally figured out how I was different from all those people driving around in their cars. I have my own natural, intuitive standard of how I should live and who I should be. Society had totally fooled me into playing its game until I was about 30 or so, when I realized that I had been indoctrinated to live a certain lifestyle and think a certain way, but somewhere deep down I had a whole other pure, natural lifestyle inside of me that I was born with. This is huge. Most people, when they think they're being free, are still following society's formula. The reason I know this is because I talk to people all the time, picking their brains to see if they get it, that if you release most of your natural energy every day, you'll always feel good. But most people are living on a generic flatline, measuring themselves by their monetary worth, material possessions, and position of status out in the world. Even old men who should know better are stuck in this one-dimensional pit. Your essence is your free spirit. They give us 100 or so choices in floor coverings, but nobody ever questions the meaninglessness of home decor and home improvement, especially while kids are living in straw huts somewhere, starving. They got TV networks, books, magazines, and an entire industry dedicated to something absolutely useless, and nobody bats an eye but people like me. They give us several hundred career options to choose from in grade school, but nobody ever says go out, be a bohemian, explore your life, discover what you really like to do, then try to develop a way to earn a living from it. There are two very clear separate boxes of life. What I'm all about purely and freely. What the world is about and trying to indoctrinate me with. Most people around me are either buying into the capitalist rat race or the spectator consumer pop culture lifestyle, always looking to either buy something or be entertained by something new. A smaller group of people are buying into other things like religion, a sentimental allegiance to their particular ethnic group, a particular genre of music, fashion, patriotism, politics, professional sports, new age ideas, psychobabble, etc. I call it the bullshit of the world. It's got nothing to do with who I am. My only purpose in life is to become who my God created me to be. I don't need all that stuff out there invading my mind and polluting it. Most people in a technologically advanced, modern society are following something outside of themselves as individuals. It's all there on TV and computer screens all the time, in magazines, and in the minds of most people you know who are walking specimens of cultural indoctrination. They're either buying into this myth of a communal society or acting like they do for appearance's sake, because every last one of us is a loner, except for news anchors reading the news, who spends more than 23 hours of every day alone in his or her own thoughts, known to no one but ourselves, yet they're trying to make us think we have common bonds as the society of humanity, when there's so much greed, exploitation, anger, pain, and suffering out there. It's a big fake job. If the elitists really cared, they'd share their wealth with the others, but they don't. Go to any town. You see two sides, the rich and the poor. If we were really a society united by our humanity, we should share and make it more equitable, but we don't. Most of us think we're good Christians while we live our lives of excess in houses bigger than we need. That's why I'm not buying any bull about a united society anywhere. Just about everybody is buying into some artificial value, concept, or idea from out in the world. It's no different than the big screen in the novel 1984 by George Orwell, where everybody was interested in the phony war going on out there somewhere in TV land. Our leaders tell us that we're fighting over there for freedom, justice, democracy, and the American way, but it's really about making money for the fat cats who supply the equipment and weapons for war. It's all part of the sales machine of the world that has a vested interest in separating you from your true nature and turning you into a pacified consumer clone so you'll buy what they're selling. You can start on the path to discover who you really are by shutting the tube off and trying to figure out what makes you tick. Then you can throw out all the material things you don't need or donate them to a charity. After that, move into a smaller place. This takes effort, at least at first. It seems so much easier to sit back and watch all them silly shows filling up your mind with delusions about fashion, glamour, and coolness. You might think it's more fun to be a pop culture clone, constantly buy new, trendy stuff at the mall and gossip with your friends about celebrities and local cool people than to try to be an artist of your life, but it all falls to pieces at some point in time because you have not developed a base of self-respect and a strong spirit through honoring yourself every day through what you do, which is why all people except for enlightened free spirits crash and burn sooner or later. After being alive for 50 years, I know what it's like to wake up in the morning with an aimless mindset, looking for some kind of fun and entertainment to pass the day, and if you do it with friends it kinda masks the feelings of emptiness and wasting your life for a while. The only thing that does it for me is to do something tough from the natural store of energy in my soul and never stop. Do it every day except for when I'm sick or injured. The only way I get a real rise out of life is when I blow off that load of inspired, sensual, hedonistic and loving energy. I never get it sitting around watching something on a screen or talking to aimless, lost souls. Unenlightened people got no strong identity to anchor themselves to. They're not strongly connected to the only thing they own, that little circle of purity inside of them that their God put into them when they were born. Your career will be over at some point in time. Then what? Your status out in the world will be gone. It usually happens just by aging. Once you're over 50, people generally think you're another used up, dull, old fogey on the way out. Your friends got their own lives and their own problems. They live alone in their heads just like you. Gossiping and socializing might be fun for some people, but it's the same old thing, and at the end of it you don't feel any better. You didn't do anything tough and worthy in releasing the natural energy in your soul. I got that strong base inside of me. I follow it every day. That's my identity and my stability. I don't need much else or care about much else. The rest of the world is kinda like a circus of lost souls and madness to me. I can't let it pollute me or interfere with who I am. I feel sorry for all the unenlightened people out there. Enlightenment takes a personal responsibility to honor what you feel is righteous and good within yourself. A lot of people would just rather watch TV than do something to try to express what's in their free spirits. There are arguments about the nobility of humanity. The truth is that we're motivated by self-interest. It's human nature. If I can get beyond my little, self-centered world to find good, noble things within myself, an enlightened person has no choice but to express them in his own way. It's not enough to follow fads just because they're currently cool, like the eco thing, and cheering for some politician just because the mass media has given him rock star status for the moment. Anything you do that's good, great, or noble has to come from within yourself and last long after the hype has worn down, kinda like John Muir being an eco-environmentalist in the 1920s before the term was even created. He felt something within himself that he followed when it wasn't very popular. I wrote this book because I realized that all the hype out there, from the capitalist ideology, pop culture, entertainment, religion, New Ageism, etc., is either nothing or minor knowledge next to what an individual thinks on his own and can create on his own, provided he doesn't impose his lifestyle onto people who don't want to deal with it and pays his own way through life. I don't live in any box like the many linear, brainwashed people I'm surrounded by. They're following one particular box of life. It might be capitalism, constantly trying to make more money than you need to rise up in the socio-economic status hierarchy. It might be trying to be cool like some pop star, trying to be glamorous like some fashion model, or following some religion. People who follow politics think they're the serious intellectual bunch who know what's going on, but they're brainwashed by what they're fed by Big Brother, the same as some punk-ass kid wearing a tongue ring is brainwashed by MTV. There are no borders on my mind the way I think. My thoughts are free. I don't censor them. My life is great as long as I do my best to stay pure by releasing the natural energy in my free spirit every single day. It gives me self-honor and my own sense of nobility. That's as enlightened as you can get. When you become enlightened and you come across people trying to impress you or acting like they got the goods on life, you can laugh at them quietly and let them follow their delusions, because all you'll get is contempt if you try to enlighten them. Just keep staying true to yourself every day through what you do. Big Brother is trying to turn everybody into a massive sea of conformity, thinking they're free because they have elections where they get to pick between Tweedledee and Tweedledum, both system insiders. Mass media has got its hooks into just about everybody. They just have to repeat any message over and over again, and sooner or later, most of the people will support it.